you know, to keep his position gives you a little hint of where the power really is. Also, the power truly is still with the people, and that's why that one example I gave, where Congress got more mail than any other issue when they were trying to regulate vitamins, is important. The power is in the people, not in the elected office. They did a whole 180 or 360, I guess, depending on how you want to think of it, turn, and actually pass something to tell the FDA to keep their hands off. So, those in your group who want to win elections by compromise, you may want to remind them that that's not where the winning is. Winning is changing the culture.
Do you have your question now?
As about as good as ever going to get. Okay, I had discussed that once you get two people into a room, the chances of you having total agreements very slim. However, I use as an example the Tea Party, who I believe really needed, they felt that the conservative Republicans were nowhere near conservative enough, and we had to go try to make a splinter group. With that in mind, how do you reconcile now as a party that those who disagree with you, for whatever point, and I see the Libertarians as a multifaceted type of wide-ranging group, how do you sit there and take care of those people who feel that they will no longer be represented because they disagree with whatever particular stance you take at this time?
Tell them to represent themselves.
John, want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm confused a little bit about the question.
Okay. If I can clarify.
Sure, go ahead.
No, well, I mean, the point of, you know, your confusion lie in the area of...
Well, you're talking about situations where people feel unrepresented?
Well, yeah, well, okay, if I am a staunch Republican, but now the Republicans, I think, are acting more like Democrats, therefore, they're not being conservative enough. I think we need to go and start our own political party of the Tea Party, which has nothing to do with fighting the British or the lack of representation. You do have representation, in my opinion, but they didn't feel that way. So they formed a splinter group, and now the Republicans embrace them wholeheartedly because, like, you know, they're the up-and-comers, and they, you know, as freshmen, they are now right there forming policy. Okay. As opposed to being delegated to the basement, as past freshmen have been. They're given a grand status. Okay, so now how would you handle, you know, people who now feel disenfranchised with the Libertarian Party? Because, as I said, I see the Libertarian Party as a multifaceted type of arrangement. And Barr has kind of proven that, you know, he believes this, but not that, and, you know,
okay, well,
type of thing, you know.
Okay.
And people feel disenfranchised.
Okay. This is all a matter of degree to some extent, because as your first statement was, you get three Libertarians in the room and you get three different opinions, and there's no doubt about that. So at some level, however, you drift so far apart, and we've all heard stories about this. Some Libertarian candidate who runs locally, and part of his platform is he wants to triple taxes to pay for some pet project of his or her. And you say to yourself, A, how did that person ever get the nomination? But B, they're not really a libertarian. That's the ultimate sort of insult that is paid in these situations. When you feel you've drifted so far away from the other person, you start questioning their status. They're not really a libertarian, and they think to themselves, you're not really a libertarian. And as Ernie says, well, then they're just going to have to represent themselves. At some point, something's going to give. If you have an organization like the Libertarian Party, and we've alluded to this, that in fact becomes so factionalized that nobody can work with anybody, then you have to question, what's the purpose of having this organization? Maybe they just ought to blow apart. Maybe people ought to just, everybody head for the exits, and last one out, turn off the lights, sort of routine. I don't think you're anywhere near that at this point. But that could happen. That's theoretically could happen. I don't know a solution for it, except to have a set of principles, preferably written principles, this is what, coming back to a statement of principles or a platform or whatever, that people can refer to and say, look, you want to triple taxes, but here it says we want to eliminate taxes. Are you sure you're right about this? And people can be educated. I mean, in the years that I was in the party, there were many instances where people, I changed my mind about things because you've got the tremendous resource of other minds, and they say, no, you're not really analyzing this correctly. You're the one who's not being faithful to libertarian principles, and sometimes they were right. So in that sense, you have to have a little bit of an open mind. But is it possible that everything could just blow apart? Sure.
Anyone want to add to that?
Well,
In that case, I'm sorry.
I would just say come to Vegas in May if you feel disenfranchised, because that's where the action is. If you're not a delegate, if you're not voting for the changes you want, then you've given it to the other side.
Seth?
The Socialist Party can't be called a big successful party, but over the span of how many decades managed to get all of their principles into play effectively as Democrats. Would you say that we're looking potentially at a situation similar, where we have a Libertarian Party that remains ineffective, but the principles behind it end up in basically taking over one or both of the other two parties to become a dominant force, not by becoming a successful party, but by becoming successful ideas within those mainstream parties?
It could happen. I mean, the other thing that could happen that I'm a little more fearful of is that if the Libertarian Party itself does not talk about the principles, if it is not the standard bearer for those principles, I believe that the word libertarian will be degraded as the word liberal has been degraded. And we will have what one science fiction writer wrote about, which is we will have a Libertarian Congress that heavily regulates and taxes.
Additions to this?
You know, I hear that a lot about the Socialist Party and how they were successful in doing that, and it's true. I mean, you can't get around that. And then we try and equate it to the Libertarian Party as if we're going to have some kind of influence on this stuff. It's not the Libertarian Party. Everybody keeps saying the Libertarian Party as if that's the bastion of libertarianism. And whatever libertarianism there was in the party, it was gone in 2006. It went bye-bye at the Oregon Convention. So I say that right off the top. The other thing is that you're talking about where this change is coming in. There is a cultural change that is happening. It is being influenced by libertarianism. But that is, if you want to find out where the nexus is for that, it's called that little bitty thing called the internet. You know, it's just mind to mind, peer to peer. This decentralized, chaotic, spontaneous order of this horizontal structure of mind to mind is libertarianism in action. It is the force that we've been screaming for decades. It's here, right, not later. And those that don't understand what's happening here and around the world, you know, you're just going to be in the rearview mirror.
Rich Tomaso.
Get away a bit from the capital P party stuff. We're talking about the future of the libertarian political movement. What for each of you, what are like the try to give the three issues, whether they be sort of current events issues or sort of or wedges or ideological points that you see that we could capitalize on as a broader movement to gain this traction and to show people, look, we could have a libertarian or a liberty solution that will make everyone's life better. What do you see as the most, say in the next 5 to 10 years, if we capitalize on this issue or cause or something, what's your top three list that's going to get us the most bang for our buck, say in the next 5 to 10 years?
John, you want to take that one?
Well, that's sort of an interesting issue. What you're really asking is if you were a candidate, for instance, what would be your top three issues you want? When you talk about capitalizing, you want to have an issue that you can own, so to speak. Right now, I would say the top two are clear. that would be non-interventionism in foreign wars, foreign affairs, because that's an issue that's coming to us. People are becoming fed up with the wars, and Republicans and Democrats are starting to back away from it, but they can't back away. I mean, they're funding these troops, and they've all voted for it, so it's very difficult. Here's an issue where you can differentiate yourself. I oppose the war. I've always opposed the war. I will continue to oppose wars like this, and just hammer on that. Second issue where you can differentiate yourself is the drug war, because again, that's an issue where we're ahead of the Republicans and Democrats. We've long been ahead of the Republicans and Democrats on this issue, and the populace, the voters are starting to move towards us. You see all of this movement in medical marijuana initiatives, for instance, state after state after state. In Congress, it's completely dead. There's nothing happening in Congress on the drug war. And that's because the congressmen are still making this, what I call the 51% calculation. They're still thinking, if I come out against the drug war, that's a loser. I don't have 51% of the people on my side. So they're way behind, and we can get way ahead. And I would use that as a wedge issue also. Those are the two that jump out at me as something where we're clearly different than the Republicans and Democrats, and we're gaining ground.
We have a question over here. No, we're not. Other people got to answer the first question.
Yeah, I was thinking in terms of, Rich, with the drug war, the Libertarian Party at some point, and I've abandoned the drug war, the issue that we used to own. They used to be our trade. Everyone knew, oh, I got the Republicans who smoke pot. We used to own that issue. And it's so sad that now that the world is actually coming around to medical marijuana, where even grandma saying, oh, we shouldn't beat up on the hippies for smoking the pot, that we let that go in favor of appeals to a non-existent kind of conservative or a Tea Party populist who will never, ever, ever vote Libertarian or understand our values or even at the most basic level. So I think I was just trying to combine it, Seth and Rich, kind of put that all into one. But yes, that's the issue. We abandoned them. We should never have.
Mary, very brief, and we have two more questions, and I think we'll be out of time.
Right, I think you can expand the no more war issue to encompass a number of things. The drug war, as Judge Buttrick mentioned, and actually, you know, the war on cancer patients, the war on the poor, with all the regulations that put them out of work. You know, you can go right down the list and present our whole message as, you know, stop all war or no more war, and hit it one by one. So I like that theme because it lets us talk about whatever it is that we're best at as candidates.
It's interesting reframing, you know, the government's waging war on people.
Yes.
Versus it's not so abstract.
Yes.
You're reframing it, which we should be doing more of, for our advantage.
And they've done it so much that you can find victims everywhere. So.
Question over here.
If my goal is a free society, and I see electoral politics as the way to do that, why would I not choose to run as a Republican and keep my principles in order to have that institutional support, media attention, ballot access already there for me? Why would I not choose to spread the ideals of liberty through a way that is more prominent in the national sphere?
Well, if you can do that, I say more power to you. But I think what you're going to find as you try to do that, as the Ron Paul delegates found, is that the Republican Party doesn't want our morality. They don't want our issue. What they want is they want control. And, you know, they controlled Ron Paul's campaign very effectively out the door. And I believe, unfortunately, they will probably do it this time too. And I hope I'm wrong.
Rather get the message out there.
Anyone want to add to that?
I'm not sure I've seen any, I mean, it's rare example. There's people at the local level here in New Hampshire, but the Free State's a very unusual place. It is the Libertopia. It's a very strange place. The rest of the world, however, back in status land, though, Republicanism is the party of conservatism. And I don't know whether it was Lawrence Vance or Lou Rockwell says basically conservatism is down to like torture. I mean, their values in conservatism are basically like torture and maybe fag bashing. I mean, that's basically what conservatism is left. I mean, that's all there is. I'm not sure, however well-meaning and however hard-working you would be at the local GOP, that your values are a match for people who will still think that torture is just a great idea.